like the walls are caving in. Sometimes I feel like giving up, but I just can't. It isn't in my blood. Laying on the bathroom floor, feeling nothing. I'm overwhelmed and insecure. Give me something I can take to ease my mind slowly. Just have a drink and you'll feel better. Just take it home and you'll feel better. Keep telling me that it gets better. Does it ever? Help me. It's like the walls are caving in. Sometimes I feel like giving up. No medicine is strong enough, so help me. I'm crawling in my skin. Sometimes I feel like giving up, but I just can't. It isn't in my blood. It isn't in my blood. Looking through my phone again, feeling anxious, afraid to be alone again. I hate this. I'm trying to find a way to chill. I can't breathe. Oh, is there somebody who can help me? It's like the walls are caving in. Sometimes I feel like giving up. No medicine is strong enough, so help me. I'm crawling in my skin. Sometimes I feel like giving up, but I just can't. It isn't in my blood. It isn't in my blood. I need somebody now. I need somebody now. Someone to help me out. I need somebody now. Help me. It's like the walls are caving in. Sometimes I feel like giving up, but I just can't. It isn't in my blood. It isn't in my blood. It isn't in my blood. I need somebody now. It isn't in my blood. I need somebody now. It isn't in my blood.
Man, let's give it up one more time. Ashley and Annabelle and the Crosspoint Band. Man, wasn't that incredible? And this Shawn Mendes song that really is talking about real life things, talking about the anxiety that so many of us feel and deal with on a daily basis. And that's where we headed this weekend. Man, so glad that you're joining us here today. And again, let's give it up one more time. Ashley, Annabelle, Crosspoint Band. Man, these guys are awesome. Every single week, bring it for us. And man, my name is Chris. We haven't had a chance to meet yet. One of the pastors here at Crosspoint. And man, I am so excited that we are in this series, At the Movies 9. This is the 9th year we've been doing this series. And it's really one of the best series of the year because of a couple of different things. One, you get popcorn and candy, and which, by the way, what's your favorite candy out there? I mean, what are your options?
I love the hot tamales. I am so glad they're out there. They're my favorite every time. At the movie theater, I
Of
like
all
popcorn.
the options.
But here for at the movies, it's all about the hot tamales for me.
I don't get it. That doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, of all the options, the
Junior mints, I mean, those are really good too. And they're
Junior
here too.
mints, for some reason in my mind, they seem like an old person's candy. I don't know. But whenever I think of
I hear you saying something about me, Chris, right there.
I'm not saying anything about anyone. That's all about me. That has more to do with me than anything else.
Right.
This weekend, we'll be looking at the movie Fatherhood with Kevin Hart, really all about navigating your anxiety. Next weekend, we'll be checking out the new Marvel movie, Shang-Chi, and it's going to be an incredible couple of weeks here as we wrap up this series at the movies. And first-time guests, this is your opportunity to get some free movie tickets. We'll be talking about that here in just a moment. But for those of you joining us online, joining us here in the room, we want to thank you for your continued generosity through the Joy Box. Man, you are a part of fueling the life change that happens right here in this building, down the hall in these kids' environments, and really all around our community and around the world. So thank you for being a part of that. We would love to connect with you if you're joining us online. You'll see this head right into your screen right now. This is our digital connection card. Maybe you kind of know the drill at this point. Fill that card out with any information that is new or has changed. And if you're a guest with us, maybe you're joining us for the very first time, thank you for joining us. We know there's a lot of things you could be doing right now, but you're joining us. You're listening to some great music. Maybe you've got some popcorn popping at home. I don't know what you're doing. But just take a minute, fill that out. And this is how you're going to get your free movie tickets. So make sure you put your name, an email address, maybe your physical address, and we will get those tickets to you in the mail this week. We got some exciting news. Ashley, you ready for this?
I'm ready for this. I love
Kids
excitement.
are back in the building. Sunday mornings, 9 a.m. and the early weekend service, Thursday night, 7:15. Kids are back in the building. There's just an energy about it, isn't it?
There really is.
It's just fun to have kids.
The kids and the volunteers and just the atmosphere around that, it's a buzz.
It is. There's a buzz. That's the best way to put it. There's a buzz. And if you want to be a part of the life change that happens in those kids' environments, you can join one of these volunteer teams. We'd love for you to be a part of it, whether it's in Upstreet with, some third graders talking about real life things, or maybe it's hanging out in the toddler room with kids that are just wild and crazy and love to have fun. We've got a spot for you if you want to jump in and join that. And if you miss any of the content for our kids' environments, you can find that at our Crosspoint YouTube channel. You can also find it on crosspointweb.org, where you can find all of the content for you and your entire family. So make sure you subscribe to that, hit the bell, and you will find all of it right there on that YouTube channel. CSM 7th through 12th grade students will be having a night of worship right here, Real Me, this Monday night at 7:30, right here on the Crosspoint campus. So if you want more info on that, head to crosspointweb.org, and you can find out all the details you need to know. But that'll be happening this Monday right here in the building at 7:30 p.m. All right, ladies, you ready for this? Ladies, you ready for this one? All right, this is for you. All right, we're having an Autumn Girls Night Out, and this is going to be a night you're going to want to be there for. Friday, September 24th, 6 to 9 p.m., featuring our speaker, Julie Bushton-Kirk. She's a speaker and an author who really, she speaks to women all across the country. But we're actually, we're really privileged because she sits right here in these seats as well. And so she'll be up here on this main stage speaking and really helping us move from pause to purpose. 101 Beer Kitchen will be catering the evening. It's going to be a great night. You'll get to select your entrees. I don't know, you like shrimp and grits? Are you a shrimp and grits fan?
I actually do really like shrimp and grits.
See,
yeah.
this is your night.
Now I'm really
This
told
is
I'm
your
coming.
night. That's one of the options. It's going to be a great evening. You want to make sure that you don't miss out on that. You can find that in the app or head to crosspointweb.org under the Get Connected button, and you'll see all of these upcoming events we're talking about right here. Lastly, the Westfield launch team is having a gathering next Friday night, September 17th, from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at the Rivet Coffee Bar right in downtown Westfield. And this is going to be an incredible night to just hear more about what's happening in Westfield, what's coming to Westfield, why are we going out there? I'm excited about it. I kind of got a little bit of skin in the game on this one, but it's going to be an incredible night. And honestly, have you ever been to Rivet Coffee Bar?
I have not. No.
It's a new coffee shop right in the middle of downtown. Jeff, you know what I'm talking about. You're a Westfield guy. I'll be honest. Come to hear about Crosspoint Westfield, but honestly, stay for the chocolate croissant. Because the chocolate croissants at this place, they're incredible. It's going to be a night you're not going to want to miss, so make sure to mark that on your calendar. 6 to 7:30 p.m. next Friday night, September the 17th. All right, we've got a great service for you today as we look at navigating our anxiety through really looking into some spiritual questions in the movie Fatherhood. But before we do that, let's go ahead and stand. Ashley and the band have a few more songs for us, so let's get after it.
Go. put your hands together, sing along with us. I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? It was my tomb till I met you. I was breathing but not alive. All my failures I tried to hide. It was my tomb till I met you. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. Now your mercy has saved my soul. Now your freedom is all that I know. Oh, the only knew Jesus when I met you. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. I needed rescue, my sin was heavy, but chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter, I was an orphan, now you call me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing, now your love is the air that I'm breathing. I have a future, my eyes are open, because you called my name. I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. I don't wanna be afraid every time I face the waves. I don't wanna be afraid. No, I don't wanna be afraid. I don't wanna fear the storm just because I hear it roar. I don't wanna fear the storm. No, I don't wanna fear the storm. Peace, be still, say the word, and I will set my feet upon gonna be afraid, 'cause these waves are only waves. Oh, I'm not gonna be afraid. Oh, I'm not gonna be afraid. I'm not gonna fear the storm. You are greater than its roar. Oh, I'm not gonna fear the storm. Oh, I'm not gonna fear it all. Peace, be still. Say the word, and I will set my feet upon the sea till I'm dancing in the deep. Peace, be still. You are here, so it is well. Even when my eyes can't see, I will trust the voice that speaks. Let faith rise up, oh heart, believe. Let faith rise up in me. Let faith rise up, oh heart, believe. Let faith rise up in me. Let me hear you sing that. Oh, let faith rise up, oh heart, believe. Let faith rise up in me. Let faith rise up, oh heart, believe. Let faith rise up in me. Peace, be still. Say the word, and I will set my feet upon the sea till I'm dancing in the deep. Peace, be still. You are here, so it is well. Even when my eyes can't see, I will trust the voice that speaks.
You know, those words that talk about how peace can actually come over us, man, I think we all needed that right now, because I think we experience a lot of anxieties we're going to look at this week. In fact, I saw some really unsettling statistics just this week. Here's one. The average high school kid today has the same level of anxiety as the average psychiatric patient in the early 1950s. I mean, just think about that for a moment. And then the Washington Post reported that this was kind of early in the pandemic, that a third of Americans are now showing signs of clinical anxiety and depression. I mean, that level of anxiety and depression. And then this next one's maybe most unsettling, though maybe not surprising, that for 80 years, young Americans have been getting more and more anxious and depressed each and every year. And we understand why, right? I mean, over the last 80 years, our country's gone through world wars. We've had financial, difficulties. Even this weekend, we're commemorating the 9/11 events that took place. And if you were alive during that season, certainly have memories of the anxiety that event created here in our country. Following that, in the years to follow, we had, again, some economic downturns in 2007, 2008, 2011. And then, of course, here we are in the pandemic. And so many, many things to create anxiety all around us. And we realize this is a problem. Like, we feel the weight of this. And so this weekend we're going to look at this, and I certainly don't have all the answers in terms of how to fully combat anxiety, but we are going to look at some things that I think will help, that God gives us to navigate our anxiety, and I'm going to do my best to help us understand that this weekend. And if these things are helpful, I tell you what, you're not going to miss something kicking off in 3 weekends, which is the 49-day challenge, and this is going to be 7 weeks where we look at tools, similar to what we're doing this weekend, tools that allow us to become better and stronger at our faith and our relationships, being able to endure difficult times. And so put that on your calendar. Make sure you join us here, kicking off here in 3 weekends for the 49-day challenge. Now, my name's Curt, and if we haven't had a chance to meet, it's great to have you here with us today. Those of you online, so good to have you joining us. And if it's your first time with us, you've got some free movie tickets coming your way, which is awesome. Make sure you complete that connection card. Now, today we're going to be looking at anxiety through this movie called Fatherhood. And this is a unique movie because this is a movie that was produced by Sony Pictures, but it got sold to Netflix and released on the Netflix platform. So that's where you can find it. It's a story, true-to-life story, about a dad by the name of Mark who has to raise his infant daughter by himself because the day after his daughter was born, his wife died. And so Matt has to navigate the ups, the downs, not only of being a parent, but being a single parent now, and of course the ups and the downs and the anxiety of the trauma he experienced by losing a spouse. And so if you haven't seen the movie, it's a fantastic movie, and here's a sneak peek. Take a look at this. Oh, man. You know, it's kind of cool to see Kevin Hart in like a dad role, right? Like not just the humorous side, but the caring side. And a dad, if we're honest, who deals with anxiety. And just out of curiosity, how many of us would say we're more anxious today than a year and a half ago? Just out of curiosity. Yeah. How about between now and 3 years ago? Yeah, many of all of us probably. I can't see everybody's hands. I certainly would say that. And yet what I overwhelmingly believe is that no matter who you are, where your faith is at, regardless of where on the spectrum your faith may be, or how much anxiety you struggle with, I firmly believe that it can get better. And so this is why we're going to dig into this movie this weekend and this theme of anxiety that we see in the movie Fatherhood, because this is something that's plaguing our culture. And so let me give us a definition for anxiety. I want us to think of it this way. It's an unpleasant, present emotion produced by the uncertainty of the future, about something that's in front of me, looming in front of me. And we feel it, right? I mean, we literally feel the anxiety. We feel it wash over us. And, you know, you might say, well, how do I know if I'm actually struggling with anxiety? Well, here's how you might know right here. If you have headaches, muscle pain, tension, tightness felt through the body, especially the head, neck, jaw, face, restlessness, rapid heart rate, fast breathing or hyperventilation, sweating, shaking, fatigue, dizziness, weakness, difficulty concentrating, sleep problems, nausea, digestive issues, feeling too hot or too cold, chest pain, dry mouth, depersonalization, derealization, feeling like you're going insane, thinking about a problem over and over again, unable to stop, or intensely or obsessively avoiding feared objects or places, you might have anxiety. All right. And I think I just listed every side effect there ever has been in life right there, right? Because that's what we feel when we are anxious. And most of us, if not all of us, have dealt with or wrestle on a regular basis with anxiety. So I want to share some things I've been discovering, some things God has been continuing to reveal to me that I think will be helpful to you. And because anxiety is real. We feel it. It's something we carry. And so as we think about this, I want us to think about anxiety like a virus, all right? Because we all know what a virus is, right? Too soon? Too soon to make that connection? All right, too soon. All right, how about a software virus? How about anxiety is like a software virus that we carry around with us everywhere we go, right? I mean, imagine yourself sitting at your computer. If you have a PC, if you have a Mac, you don't really connect with this at all. But if you have a PC, you know what it's like to sit there and the thing just keeps loading slower and slower. The images don't come up as fast. I mean, it's like you're not getting the full power out of the machine because there's this virus that's going on in the background of your PC, right? And so even more than a software virus, anxiety really feels more like this. It's kind of like carrying around this big rock right here, right? Because it's heavy. We know what this is like because we feel the weight of it. And so this is what anxiety feels like, right? And this is a little bigger rock than I probably should have chose. Should have gotten a little smaller on the illustration. It's quite heavy. But, we go about our day with this, right? And we go into our conversations. As we converse with people, we're conversing, carrying this weight. As we work, we're interacting and doing our work and leading people, carrying this weight with us. We have to deal with our families. We continue to carry this around. And for like 60 seconds or so, it's totally fine. I mean, I have no problem doing this, but the longer you hold on to it, it gets harder and harder and it gets heavier. And so you know what we do? We just do what any normal person would do, right? We grab a backpack and we put it in the bag so we can carry it around easier, right? Like this is what we do. And then we just strap it on our back and we carry it around, right? So we can go through our day. And, remember when you were in junior high? Like you had all your books and your Trapper Keepers, jam-packed in your bag. Like my kids still look like this when they walk out the door every day. I mean, they just have these big backpacks. And remember, as you interact with people, they're like, what's in the bag? Like, what's in the backpack? You're like, it's fine, it's cool, it's nothing. You don't need to worry about it at all. I mean, I got it, it's mine. No, seriously, what's in it? No, it's fine, no big deal. Because we want to hide it, right? We stick it in the bag so nobody can see it. And so we just carry around this anxiety, this uncertainty about the future. About that problem we're trying to control the outcome in our family on. Or we're trying to control the outcome with our kids, or the outcome with my job situation, or the economy, or, how do I create the solution and control the outcome with my aging parents? And so we just put it in a backpack and we carry it around. And to be honest, I hope to do the whole teaching this way, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do this because it's pretty heavy, right? And I got to do this 3 times this weekend, so my chiropractor's not available all weekend. So I'm going to put this down, which is where the illustration, by the way, breaks down. Because we don't do that with our anxiety, do we? But what's the answer? What do we do with it? Well, maybe somebody said, well, just stop. Right? Just stop. Stop being anxious. Anybody ever told you that? Just stop. To which you're probably like, obviously you don't get it. Or you don't get me. You don't understand me, that I just can't do that. Maybe I don't know how to do that. And so what do? We just carry it around, right? And so just so you know, the answer is not to just stop. I'm not going to give you that. That's not helpful at all. But I do think there's a way to navigate our anxiety, because let's be honest, it's not a once and done thing. It's not like, well, I solve it once and then I'm good. No, this is going to be an everyday through the rest of my life. How do I navigate the things that create anxiety in my life? So I want us to look at 2 different guys from the New Testament, and these are guys who wrote letters. We're going to look at each of their letters. One is a guy by the name of Peter. Peter was one of the best friends of Jesus, one of his followers. And then we're going to look at a guy by the name of Paul. Paul, we love to talk about around here. He was a follower later after kind of Jesus had been here, died, resurrected, went to heaven. And so in both of these cases, these 2 men write letters, and they speak about anxiety. Now, we don't know exactly what kind of anxiety they had. We do get a glimpse of it, though. We know Paul, for instance, he traveled all around the Mediterranean rim, and he, traveled on this boat that you and I would not even step foot on. All right, he went through dangerous waters, spent a night in the open sea. He was beaten, he was stoned, not, but with rocks. All right, and he was snake bitten. I mean, he was shipwrecked not once, not twice, but 3 times, and he did all this without Advil or electricity. I mean, I don't know how he did it. So, that would be a little nerve-wracking, right? And we're going to look at Peter's story in a moment. So we realize we don't fully know what they dealt with. And they didn't have fidget pads. And you're like, they're not that anxious because they don't have a fidget pad. If you're really dealing with anxiety, you have a fidget pad, right? That's what keeps you, sane. We don't fully know what their deal was. But they do speak about anxiety. And they speak right to it. And so I want to read to you what they wrote, because I think this will be very helpful to us. And so here's what Peter said. He begins this way. He said, all of you. Now, do you know what that means in the Greek language? It means all of you. That's what it means. It means an all skate. It means all of us are in the same boat. This is something we're all kind of dealing with together. So he says, all of you, clothe yourselves with humility, which we go, okay, wait just a second. I thought we were talking about anxiety. What's he talking about humility for? Well, anxiety and humility are actually connected. In fact, Peter is going to make a very, very strong case for how they're connected here in just a moment. So he says, all of you clothe yourselves with humility toward one another because, and he's going to reveal something right here that's really fascinating and important and incredibly heavy and pointed. So here's what he says next. He says, God opposes the proud, but he shows favor to the humble. Now, this is actually incredible to me right here. Think about this. We have a God who, when it comes to humility, all right, when we humble ourselves, God shows favor to those who humble themselves. But he opposes, this is a military term right here, he comes all against with full force those who walk around prideful, to which we go, whoa, okay. Like we all do that to some degree or another, right? God says, no, I show favor. I show grace. I show kindness to those who come at this with humility. But I come with opposition. I use the full leverage of who I am when there's pride involved. And so what's the difference between pride and humility? We probably know what it is, right? But let me just, for clarity's sake, help us understand this. So pride is when we say, yep, this stuff I got, man, I got this. I got this. It's mine. I've got it. You know, I'm not proud about like the anxiety part of it. I'm proud about like, you know, I'm going to control the thing with my family. I've got it. Don't need any help. I'm going to control the outcomes with my kids, control the outcomes with my aging parents. I'm going to control the job situation. I mean, I don't need any help on this. All right, pride is like, this is mine to bear. All right, I've got it. Don't need any input. And so we carry these things around that we weren't necessarily intended to carry. So pride says, I've got this, whereas humility says, I can't. I mean, I'm aware of the fact that I can't even control my own life, let alone my kids' outcomes. I mean, how can I do that? I can't control outcomes for my aging parents. I can't control outcomes for the economy. I can't control the outcomes for whether I'm going to keep my job or not. I can't control, you know, whether we're going to continue in a pandemic, the impacts of COVID that we continue. I can't control any of that, right? To which Peter would say, okay, now we're getting somewhere in our conversation. And so Peter, he goes on, he says, so humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand. Meaning when we begin to realize the greatness of God and the mightiness of God, we begin to humble ourselves in his presence, and we begin to bend our life toward him. So he says, humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up. And we go, yeah, but I'm feeling weighed down. And he'd say, right, because you're carrying things you weren't intended to carry. But as soon as you say, okay, listen, I can't. I can't. Like, do you levitate at that point or what? Like, maybe not. But do you feel lighter when you go through your day? Probably, because all of a sudden you're not carrying that weight around anymore. He says, humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up in due time. Now, here's where we struggle right here. This phrase, in due time. In fact, there's a pastor by the name of Levi Lusko. He talks about how we really shouldn't be, as human beings, the ones to determine in due time. You know what I'm talking about? He's like, we're the ones that burn our mouths on a Hot Pocket, right? Like, how ingenious is that? Like, what's the point of a Hot Pocket? Like, I can put it in the microwave, 60 seconds later, bam, I have dinner, right? But we can't even wait long enough to let it cool down, so we burn our mouth like 10 seconds later. Like, so our understanding of in due time, like, yeah, we're like, yeah, I prayed, and God didn't do anything. I mean, I prayed and prayed, but I mean, he just never showed up, right? And so, you know, Peter's saying, hey, remember, God said, humble yourselves, therefore, under my mighty hand, and I will lift you up in my due time. See, in due time is not like when this service is over. In due time, perhaps, may not even be at the end of this week or at the end of next month or even perhaps at the end of this year. In due time could be, hey, just trust me on this, God says. And in a year or 2 or 3, you might begin to experience some of what I have for you. So Peter's kind of like, let me give it to you specifically. You asked about anxiety. I've been talking about humility. So here you go. Here's verse 7. He says, cast all your anxiety on him. Why? Because he cares for you. He cares for you. He says, cast it on him, all right? So we tend to pick it up and sling it around and carry it around everywhere we go. But he says, no, I want you to throw it off your shoulder and onto him. We don't do that very well, do we? We just like to carry it around. And so here's the reality. Perhaps the thing you're anxious about, your anxiety stems from carrying something that you weren't meant to carry. I mean, maybe you're anxious over something that you're trying to control and you can't control it. You're like, yeah, but it's my kids. I love my kids. Okay, well, love them. Like, that's totally cool. But, like, you can't control them, right? Or my aging parents. Just, like, be irresponsible with them? No, be responsible. Like, set a plan. Like, identify what the needs are. But then, like, you can't control the outcome. Again, perhaps your anxiety has something to do with carrying something that you weren't intended to carry. And see, this is beautiful to me because God cares for you, and he says you can cast your anxiety on him because he cares, because he's willing to carry things that you and I were not ever intended to carry. How do I know that God cares for me? I mean, it seems somewhat abstract. I mean, think about it. I mean, what can we believe? Is there something that God said at some point? I mean, is there something that God did, or an expression that he gave us, or some kind of like symbol that showed the character of his heart that says, I care for you? Thank you, guys. See, this was an instrument of the Roman government right here. For centuries, this was punishment to people who did wrong. I mean, but see, the cross is also a centerpiece of our faith. And see, at the core of our faith isn't just that God said something in the world. It's not that he just said, hey, I care for you. No, at the core of our faith is that God did something. He revealed something. He showed something. That he's not distant, that he's not numb to our present reality. In fact, perhaps one of the most empathetic things God has ever done in the world was sending and allowing his own son to come walk here on the earth with us. To feel what we feel, to walk in the streets and the road and the pain that we experience day in, day out, and to then sacrifice his life to give up his own life as a way of showing us, hey, listen, now I see you, and I hear you, and I care for you. And so the reason that the cross is so crucial to this conversation right here is that the cross reminds us that God is willing to carry us. And so when Peter says, hey, this God that I've come to experience, he's so kind and so generous, and he's so genuine. When he says, bring all your stuff to me and cast it on me, when he says, hey, come to me, all of you who are weary and laden, who are burdened down, listen, I'm going to give you rest. When he says that, like he means it. Like he means that we can take like the very things that weigh us down. I got to zip it up so, OSHA isn't, upset with us here. And I can cast it on him. My worries, my anxieties, my fears, I can just throw it onto him because he cares for me. And see, when you get fixated on that thing today, tomorrow, this week, that you're just trying to control, you're trying to control the outcome on, right? You just say, this is mine to control, it's mine. I got it. What he's saying is, I want you to have a broader view. See, in the movie for this week, in Fatherhood, Mark, his anxiety comes to a head for him when his daughter, Maddie, when she has an accident and she has to be rushed to the emergency room. And she's rushed to the emergency room at a hospital, and it's not only the hospital she was born in, but it's the hospital that her mother died in the day after she was born. And so just walking into that space immediately created anxiety for Mark, the dad, and he immediately began to try to control the outcomes of everything. Because this is what anxiety does. See, in those moments, our Heavenly Father says to us, he says, I want you to remember that you have a Savior who went to the cross for you. And he did that so you could know beyond a shadow of a doubt that he cares for you. See, when Peter wrote about this was real to Peter. I mean, this is so real. I mean, Peter, he had a lot of anxiety about what was going to happen when he saw Jesus next. When he interacted, what was Jesus going to say to him? What was Jesus going to do to him? And if you don't know the story of Peter, Peter was one of Jesus' best friends, one of his closest friends. And the night before Jesus died, in those 24 hours before Jesus died, some of those crucial, significant moments in Jesus' life, Peter denied his friend even knowing him, not once, not twice, but 3 times. The night before he died. And yet 3 days later, on that next Sunday morning, when these women ran to the grave and found that the tomb was empty, the grave was empty, and they ran back to John and Peter and James and said, hey, guys, his body's not there. Peter ran to the grave to see what he would find because he was looking for Jesus. And I don't think he knew fully what he was going to find. And just imagine this for a moment. Was Jesus going to say, hey, Peter, I heard, did you deny me like once? Not twice? 3 times? Whoa, dude, I don't want to see you. You're out of my life. Get out of here. But see, Jesus didn't do that. He loved him. And so when Peter says, hey, you can cast your cares on him, all right, he knows that beyond a shadow of a doubt, hey, he cared for me when he didn't have to, and he'll care for you. And see, for some of us, we feel a bit like a runaway, right? Like when it comes to faith, it might be like, yeah, I kind of dropped my faith off a while back. I haven't really been engaged. I mean, do you really think God's going to turn an eye toward me? I mean, I certainly have not been faithful or present with him. You know what he said to you? He said, no, I'm still here. Think about Peter. I'm still here, Peter. You can cast your anxiety on me. Now, the Apostle Paul, on the other hand, when he wrote about this, he's a little more direct because that's just how Paul was. You might be thinking, okay, it's a little vague for me. I mean, casting my cares on Jesus. I might get the illustration. I can hang it on the cross, and, it's a good illustration. I can see that I physically can make the transfer, and, but like, is the nail going to hold? is this whole thing going to peel over into the front row? Some of you are like, I'm glad I'm not in the front row. Like, the people that are anxious in the room, this is what they're thinking right now, all right? And it might. I mean, the nail may, break down. I can tell you the cross of Jesus won't break down for you. But see, Paul, he was a little more direct in this. In fact, he said, let me tell you specifically what you need to do. All right, he gave us a very practical application. And so if you're somebody who's like, okay, so what am I supposed to do today to address my anxiety? Paul's your guy. You're going to love what Paul says. Here's what he says in Philippians 4. He says, do not be anxious about anything. Done, case closed, thank you, Paul. All right, he's like, just don't do it. All right, and then he goes, okay, let me tell you how you're going to do it, though. So don't be anxious about anything, but in every situation, to which we go, okay, Paul, but like which ones? Like there's some big ones and there's some small ones. Paul says, in every situation. Yeah, but Paul, I mean, some of these, I just don't understand how I can't be anxious about them. I totally get some of the small. Paul's like, everything, in every one. Don't be anxious about anything, but by prayer and petition. So he says, when you feel the anxiety, when you feel the anxiety creeping up, we feel the symptoms begin to take over, we begin to feel the panic attack coming on and the breathing begin to get rushed, he says, you need to turn your anxiety into prayer. All right, you can cast your anxiety on him. When you say, okay, I can't, I got this, but God, I don't know, I can't do this. You can cast it onto him. This is the recipe. This is the cocktail. You need to turn your anxiety into prayer. Now, I know some of us are thinking, okay, dude, seriously, like this is your fairy tale solution to my real life problems. That's all you got. Like, come on. That's what Paul said. All right? Hey, I'm the messenger. All right, don't shoot me. Shoot Paul. All right? This is what he said. I'm just telling you what he said. He said, yeah, seriously, turn it into prayer. That's what I want you to do. And see, the problem right here is the in due time thing, right? Where I tried it once, I prayed once, I said, God, I need you to take this from me. Nothing happened. It didn't work out. You know when you're on an airplane, and some of you, if you're not anxious when you fly, some people are anxious when they fly. If you're not anxious when you fly, you've never even heard this spiel before, right? But if you're anxious when you get on an airplane, you could recite the spiel. Like when the oxygen mask comes down, you could recite exactly what is said right there. Because some of you, like when you get on planes, you're anxious and you're like, I just know today's the day. I mean, this one's going down. I can just tell it's rattling before we even hit the runway, right? Like you just have this anxiety that takes over, right? And I don't get anxious when I fly. I love flying. I've flown like 16 times in the last 14 months, 16 different flights. I just don't generally get anxious, except for one flight that we were on from Nairobi, Kenya, a little pedal jumper, to Western Kenya when we were heading to Village Project Africa. And in that particular moment, Julie and I were in an exit row. And so we had this very dignified, well-spoken flight attendant come and explain the exit row procedures to us and asked us if we could do that. We said, absolutely. And then he reached over us and ripped the panel off the side of the door. It was Velcroed on. He said, if there's a problem, you rip this off and pull this handle to open the door unless there is something dangerous outside. To which we got kind of big eyes. He said, dangerous could be smoke, fire, explosions, lions, tigers. No. There's no bears in Africa, right? Just lions and tigers is all there is, all right? I looked over at Julie. I'm like, okay, this seems like this happens pretty frequently. I think we should be a little bit concerned. All right, that was probably the only time I've been anxious in the last 20 years on an airplane. Back to the oxygen mask. You know when that thing drops in front of you? What do they tell you? What do they say about the oxygen mask? They say, put it on, but you're probably not going to see it inflate, right? You're not going to see air flowing through, but it's working. I mean, what do you do if you don't see it working? If you don't see the air, inflating the things, you just take it off and throw it on the ground? No, you don't do that, do you? No, you've got to trust the process. See, it's actually working even though you don't see or seem to think that it's working. And see, this is how prayer is. We have to trust the process. We want to see it working. We want to see the immediate, I want to see it change right now. But so you can't give up. You got to continue to trust that even though I don't see it working, it's working. You got to stay with it. You got to keep with it. You got to continue to cast your anxiety on him. And if that's not enough, Paul gives us one more thing. He says, I got one more thing for you. He goes on. He says, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, cast your anxiety on God with thanksgiving. With thanksgiving. Now, this is huge right here. Huge, 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 huge. Meaning gratitude has a role to play in our anxiety. You might say, okay, Curt, what role does gratitude have to play in my anxiety? Well, I'm glad you asked. Here's the role it plays. Let me tell you a story. So some of you are aware, 4 years ago or so, my wife, we found out she had breast cancer. Caught it at a very, very early stage. I'm still totally blown away, amazed at how the doctors found this and God's hand was in this. I still don't know fully how it happened. She went through some procedures, radiation. A year later, she was clean, given a clean bill of health. We were so thankful. And so she still goes back every 12 months as any cancer survivor that for her yearly checkup. And I'm not going to lie, every time October rolls around and we hit that appointment, which is coming soon, I hold my breath a bit, just waiting for are we going to get another clean bill of health? A few years ago, and this is a pretty regular conversation, but a very distinct moment I remember with some of our friends. They said, Julie, how do you not have anxiety all the time over the reality that your cancer could be back and you don't even know it? And I'll never forget what she said right here. She said, honestly, I cannot fixate on that. She said, I choose to be thankful. I choose to be thankful for the fact that God walked through us through this in amazing ways. We still can't explain it. I choose to be thankful for the reality that my cancer's there's no more cancer in my body right now. I choose to be thankful for the fact that I still get to be a mom to my 4 kids, and they still get to have a mom. I choose to be thankful that, I still get to be an educator. I still get to, build into kids and pour into students here at Crosspoint through my role of building into kids and helping them see Jesus for who he is. I mean, that's how you do it right there. Because here's what gratitude does. Gratitude causes your fear of the future to snap back into your present reality. That's what it does. You can fixate on, whoa, what if it's returned? But right now, I'm gonna fixate on the fact that I'm thankful that I'm cancer-free. I'm thankful that I still get to be a mom to my kids. I'm thankful I have an amazing, wonderful, handsome husband that I still get to spend time with. I'm thankful for that. She didn't say that. See, when you overcome anxiety, you do it by casting your cares onto him through prayer, by saying, God, I can't do this. I need your help. And by turning your anxiety into gratitude. Even out loud if you need to. Maybe it might be making a list. Like, this is one of our next steps this weekend. Maybe this is the tangible, active thing you need to do this week. Every time you feel anxiety creeping in, you need to go, you know what? I'm going to be thankful for what I have right now in the present moment. Because I can get fixated on the future, but I'm going to snap back to reality because that's what gratitude does for us. So Paul says, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your request to God, and then the peace of God, which transcends all understanding. All right, meaning this is beyond your and my ability to even understand it. All right, and I see a few of you kind of be like, yep, I've been there. I can't explain it, but yes, I've experienced this. Paul says, it will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. It's going to guard your heart. There's a peace. It's beyond any kind of explanation. And it's built on the cross. And it's defended by the cross. And Paul says, it's going to guard your heart. Now, when I was reading this week, the image I had come to mind for whatever reason, maybe because, NFL's starting this weekend, maybe that's why. I was thinking of Quentin Nelson, who's the Colts left guard. Have you ever seen Quentin? Quentin is he gets down in his posture. You know what his job is? Nobody's touching my quarterback. Nobody is touching my quarterback today. I mean, he gets down and he engages with that linebacker and he drives. He just pounds him into the ground. Look at me right there. I mean, he just drives like, you're not touching him today. Come on, step up to the line. Nobody's getting to him. I'm defending my quarterback. Carson Wentz, you're not going to the ground. That's what peace does for us right there. See, peace, it's built by the cross. It's defended by the cross. It says, hey, there's a mighty hand that's going to protect you. It's going to engage and say, no, you're not getting to my son or my daughter. And Paul says, man, if you'll cast your care or your anxiety on me, because I trust me, I care for you. If you'll cast that on to me, with thanksgiving, be thankful for what you have now, kind of pull yourself back into reality in the moment. I'll tell you what, you're going to experience something that doesn't even make sense. Because see, the cross reminds us that God is willing to carry us. Right? He says, hey, I'm here, I'm ready. You can put your anxieties on me. But see, the story of our faith doesn't end with the cross, right? The story of our faith actually involves an empty grave. And while the cross reminds us that he's willing to, the empty grave reminds us that he has the power to. He has the power to overcome our anxiety. That anxiety will not necessarily get the best of you because, see, he's overcome even death. There's a great moment in this movie where Mark, the dad, sits down with his wife's father, so it'd be his father-in-law. And you saw it in the trailer there. His father-in-law says, Mark, you're just trying to make everything perfect. He says, but we don't have that kind of control. And so what do you do in the middle of your anxiety? When you're feeling like, man, I got to control it. I got to shape it. I got to control the outcomes. So you're faced with that decision. Am I going to carry that anxiety, or am I going to cast that onto the one who's willing to carry it for me? And just like Mark, we have to face that question every single day. Every single day. What am I going to do today? Am I going to carry around what I was not meant to carry, or am I going to allow God, the one who cares for me, say, God, I can't do it. I'm going to let you carry this. See, I genuinely believe that you can overcome your anxiety. And that tomorrow can be better than today. And that a year from now you can go, yeah, I'm still in my life. But you know what? I've learned through prayer and petition saying, God, I can't. And through thanksgiving, God, I'm so thankful for what I have right now. It's going to snap me back from my anxiety in the future to what I actually see you doing right now. That you actually are taking care of me, and the peace that transcends all understanding. Paul says it's going to guard your heart. In fact, right now as we wrap up, I want to give us a moment to just do that, to pray, to talk to God. To put words to God in prayer form, conversational form, just in our own mind, our breath. And these last kind of quiet moments, to just share with him whatever you're anxious about, what you carry in here that you're anxious about. And do you want to keep carrying it, or you want to say, okay, God, I'm gonna hang it. I'm gonna say, God, I can't, I don't know. Because he can be trusted. And perhaps for some of us, this is a moment to re-engage in our faith. Maybe you're like, yeah, I was kind of run away for a while, kind of left faith by the wayside. Maybe this is a moment where you re-engage. Remember Peter? I mean, Peter, Jesus had every reason to be like, Peter, get out of here. But he didn't. He didn't. He cared for him. He invited him to cast his cares on him because he can be trusted. So let's just bow our heads for a moment. And I'll start a prayer, and then you can just kind of pray for a few moments on your own. Heavenly Father, the things that we're feeling anxiety over right now, maybe things we carried in here, things on our mind as we've been spending these last few minutes together, we just want to hand these over to you. We say, God, I can't do this. I've tried. I can't control the outcomes. So whatever those things are, we just want to tell you about it right now. So we hand them over to you. Just hear our prayers. We pray.
Let the King of my heart be the mountain where I run, the fountain I drink from. Oh, he is my song. Let the King of my heart be the shadow where I hide, the ransom for my life. Oh, he is my song. You are good, good. Oh, you are good. You're good. Oh, you are good. You're good. Oh, you are good. You're good. Oh, go ahead and stand and sing with us. Let the King of my heart be the wind inside my sails, the anchor in my waves. Oh, he is my song. Let the King of my heart be the fire inside my veins, the echo of my days. Oh, he is my song. You are good. You're good. Oh, 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 you're never gonna let me down. Put your hands together. You're never gonna let me down. 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 You are good, good. Oh, you are good, you're good. Oh, you are good, you're good. Oh, you are good, you're good. Oh, you're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down.
Well, hey, thanks so much for joining us this week at the movies. Hey, and when you find yourself anxious this week, let that be your prayer. You're never going to let me down, God. You're never going to let me down. If you find yourself in need of prayer, text the keyword need prayer to 25827. A member of our prayer team will give you a call and pray with you this week. And this week, as you go, trust the process. We'll see you back here next weekend.
You are good, you're good.